And there we go. All right. So this is the Board of Health, October 12th. It is 6:03 p.m. In attendance, we have Jim Philbrook, Pete Lancette. Matt is trying to sign on, not there yet. And we also have several people from Gould Cemetery Road, 3 people so far. So we'll go ahead and get started. I'll take a motion, we can do it without Matt, to accept the prior meeting minutes from our last meeting, which was September 28th. Go ahead.
Motion, Mr. Chairman, to accept those minutes from the September 28th.
And I'll second, because I'm the only other one. So all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so those are now accepted. Moving on to old business, Cemetery and Gould Road updates. Jim, I'm gonna let you fill us in because you are probably the one with the most information.
All right, thanks, Mr. Chairman. Last week, Andrew Golas and myself, and along with Gary Magnuson, attended a meeting with the DEP, along with Forensic Environmental and ExxonMobil and Kleinfelder. The meeting of the subject was the determination of that the Gould. Hang on one second. That the Gould Cemetery Road issue. Matt, Mr. Chairman, can I have 1 second? Because I'm going to put Matt on the phone here, I think.
Yeah, go ahead.
That's okay.
No, please do.
Hey,
All right. Matt, you're on the phone. We can hear you.
okay, perfect.
I'll keep Mr. Chairman and Pete. Can you hear Matt?
Yes,
Yes.
if we can hear you, Matt. Thank you for making the effort from Illinois to join the meeting.
All right. So, Matt, if I may, Mr. Chairman, we're just giving an update on the Gould Cemetery Road meeting with DEP, along with Forensic Environmental, ExxonMobil, and Kleinfelder, along with Mark Baldy, along with the other individuals from the DEP. Their determination was that link of the MTBE was not connected with the ExxonMobil spill at 6 West. Seems to be pretty definitive. I did tell them that I would request that maybe additional search be done, as Gary did, but they seem pretty stern that this is not connected with the spill at the 6 West, and therefore it becomes a private issue. So it's not over yet. There's still going to be an information meeting with the public that's going to be put on, but this was a meeting prior to that to give us an update. I believe Andrew Golas was on the call also, but I did ask Gary to look further into it, what they would do with the treatment systems and who would be responsible, because if it's not connected with a known spill, then it's well below the standards. I think the highest is the Coptic Church at 27 parts per million, and the rest of them were very low. But we didn't get that far. They didn't want to answer those questions. So Gary is getting a list of questions together for the board for the next public information meeting. But that's generally, I was pretty hard on Mark Baldy and said, our job is to protect the public's health. And, what are we supposed to do? Just take out these treatment systems, and what's going to happen with them? And that is something they didn't answer. I would hope they would just, the treatment systems would stay in the home, and it'd be responsibility of the homeowner to keep them, updated and the filters changed.
I'm going to interrupt for a minute because Kathleen Beck has her hand up. Go ahead, Kathleen.
Okay. I'm just wondering that 27 that you just said for the high level, is that just the most recent testing? Because our neighbors, as you said, who have the filtration systems, they were up as high as 42 at one point, and anything over 35, they automatically got the filter systems in place. So my immediate neighbors both have filters. I do not. Our most recent one was like 4.2. The highest we ever had was over the 6 years. I really can't remember. I want to say it was like 25. So we never did reach the filter level, the automatic filter level. So that 27 that you just said, is that recent, or is that what you thought of all time?
Mr. Chairman, if I may, okay, that's the most recent test from Kleinfelder, and that came from Maura Johnson. The reason why a filtration system was installed after 34, because that's the agreement with ExxonMobil because of the spill. But if it's not associated or affiliated with that spill, it now has to reach 70 to be an issue. And then the issue is that would not be an issue of ExxonMobil, but the private homeowner. Because the drinking water standards are 70 parts per million, not 34 of MTBE.
So anything below 70 is drinkable,
Yep.
according to them? So if I'm at 4, I could literally have my own ice cubes in my machine instead of
Yes.
physically making ice cubes. Not that, it's first world problem, but I just, my biggest question of this whole thing is, I think this is our 6th year of getting water delivery, which is great. That's been great. But if they weren't the ones that were, culpable, that why did they pay for all that stuff up until now, all of a sudden?
Mr. Chairman, if I may, that's because of Robin Craver and myself. I spoke to Robin of the concern that we were going to leave out Gould Cemetery Road issue, and that we need to connect it to the 6th West before it was closed. So we had a meeting many years ago with Forensic Environmental when Robin Craver was still here, and we demanded that something be done. So DEP, acting in the best interest of public health, connected it with 6th West and put the onus back on to ExxonMobil that they had to prove that it wasn't them.
So it took this long for them to prove that it wasn't them.
And it took this long and a lot of money. They were in agreement at one point to connecting the water line if we, meaning the Board of Health and our staff, did the footwork of asking people if they would connect. And then it took too long, and then it came back and their report indicated that you could find someone else to indicate that maybe there's a discretion, but the DEP said it does not longer have the funding or the manpower or the not willing to push it any further.
So we're on our own at this point. You did say there's a possibility of one more meeting.
Well, there's a possibility that we could throw something out there that would cause doubt, that would enact another, them to do another study, which could take another couple years.
6 years. Yeah.
That's what we're trying to do is basically for the residents, along with Gary, and I'm sure that if Andrew Golis is on the call, he'd say, listen, we worked hard towards this. You've got filtration systems. They spent a lot of money, invested a lot of money in infrastructure. What happens now? We just don't want to say, okay, it's your private problem and you can have up to 68 parts per million and you can drink it because it's the drinking water standards, which is reasonably high, I believe, for MTBE, especially in a town like Charlton that has a history of having levels, and anything that would hit 34, ExxonMobil agreed to install through Kleinfelder, that filtration system. That is the reason, but they've cast reasonable doubt and have scientific proof because of the study that it is not connected with them. Now we'd have to, think of a plan B of how could we cast reasonable doubt for them to do. What other studies could be done? Could we get a college professor from University of Rhode Island who did it for a municipality, and he did a study for free for his students and found out that MTBE was from ExxonMobil and won a case. So I'm looking into other avenues because the municipality itself does not have the financial capacity to do such a costly study. But I think we're looking into other things. There are professors out there that do studies for college that this one professor did and took it on for a municipality, and he didn't charge anything. It was a study. I'm certainly going to try and connect with him again. He's a professional. They ended up winning that case, and it was determined that it was the fault. So you can get someone just like an attorney to dispute it, is it or isn't it? But the thing is, it costs so much money, and that's the issue. And they spent a lot of money to determine it wasn't them.
Okay. So the town will look into getting that attorney, or that school or whomever
No.
can go further with it, or?
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I believe that I haven't spoke to Andrew Golis about this. He's been quite busy. Just having that meeting, we haven't spoke. I'm saying on my own, as through the Board of Health, as the health director, I've reached out before, having studies from the students at WPI. So I reached out to other professors that were involved and knew about MTBE spills and hydrogeology and how the bedrock aquifer runs. They have the ability to do that, and that was something that I was going to look into, something like that, but I can't promise anything, and I would do that as long as the board was okay with it.
Well, I'm
Okay.
sorry.
I appreciate that.
Can we move on to Judy Gilbert? You have your hand up. Did you want to say something?
Yes, thank you. Jim, thank you for all of that background and further information. On behalf of all of us, we appreciate that you ever made this first move, certainly, to have this looked into on our behalf. My question is obviously what comes next, and it sounds like you've got some ideas for that, but what is the point of that info meeting? What is Exxon saying, or the DEP saying is the point of this public? Is it just because they are legally bound to do this, to wrap this all up?
Mr. Chairman, if I may, that is correct, Judy. They're legally bound, once you form that PIP group, that they're legally bound to have the meeting to discuss this with the residents directly, to inform you of their findings, and you have the right to dispute it and talk to them. Certainly our meeting was to inform us directly of the findings of the study ahead of time. So I'm certainly giving you information before the meeting, but anything I receive is public information, so nothing is a secret. So I'm giving it to you straight. That's what I got from it. And I did directly ask Mark Baldy. I said, when we walked out of your office many years ago, Mark, I said, please don't leave us hanging. We need you. And you said, don't worry, I'll take care of Charlton. And he said he remembered. So I threw that out there, and I'm certainly going to do it again. But I think some of it is his hands are tied because of that report that came back. Before they got the USDA, they paid for it and had a study to dispute the Casella findings of how the 1.4, this is a little different, but they seem unwilling at this time to step forward with any. They said they don't have the financial capacity to hire anyone else for any further studies, but they said no for now, but that doesn't mean no forever. So we're not going to give up yet.
And so what is it that determines that it took too long to find out if we all would go for town water? Because I remember when that letter came, and that was several years ago, asking us all if we were interested in town water. So what are they saying about that? Why is that opportunity gone? Because of financing, or?
Mr. Chairman, I'm not sure why the big change, because they feel that ExxonMobil at one point was willing, and I think now they've taken a step back and say, if we're not responsible, we're not doing it. We've already invested a lot of money. So I think there's a change of heart. I think if they knew we couldn't act that fast, it's not something that you can do. So it was not a stall tactic, but certainly the DEP did take a big step by saying that was from the pressure from myself and from Robin when we had the meeting, that we weren't going to leave that meeting until they did something. And credit to Mark Baldy. He did mandate that they attach that to the 6 West and therefore responsible. And that's what occurred with the filtration systems and the testing.
Got it. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, can I add to that?
Yes, go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, so this is Matt. So a couple of notes. One, I also believe the reason they asked the residents on Gould Road and that area was because at the time, Southbridge didn't think Charlton was going to have enough people to tie on to water, and that the water we weren't going to have enough users for that. So at that time, they were looking for anybody to jump onto that water line, and it may have been why they went down that road, especially if it was tied with 6W at that time, to say to Southbridge at the time. No, we've got all these people that are going to be taking water. Therefore, we need to get that water line. Because, Jim, remember there was a time where they weren't going to give us water. They didn't think we were going to have enough supply for it, enough demand for that supply.
That's true.
And
Yep.
so that may be one reason at that time that letter went out to you. Another point I'd like to make is this 70 parts per billion, that's a Massachusetts standard, and we're dealing with Massachusetts Department of DEP. I believe if you look, you'll find other states in United States that have different thresholds for that, and I believe they're less than that 70. So I haven't looked up, but I believe, like I heard California, and don't quote me on it, but I heard California might be 35. So I'm just saying 70 is kind of, it's on the higher end of what they're saying is, safe for consumption. And I think in other areas, you'll find that it's that threshold is much lower than that. The third thing that I just wanted to mention is our board, through Jim and help through these student studies and whatnot. We actually had a doctor do he looked into the fact about drinking water, like contaminated water, and how it would affect you. In other words, if you filled your swimming pool with this water, would that be bad? Or if you were to brush your teeth with the water, would that be bad? And how far can you actually drink this water before it becomes a risk to public health and safety? And they came back with a term that was called incidental consumption. And basically they're saying, no, you can brush your teeth with that. You spit it out. I mean, you might get a couple of drops in your mouth or whatnot, but it's not enough to really affect anybody. And you can go swimming in the pool. You can do that. So when the comment was just brought up about an ice cube, I'm thinking, well, actually, ice cubes might fall under the incidental consumption rule, but then I'm thinking maybe not, because if you have individuals that, actually eat the ice cubes and all that, then maybe they're taking in more than what they could or what they should. But there's certain things that, it's not a great idea to be drinking the water that it's contaminated. But as far as taking showers and doing daily washing of the dishes and these things you typically use water for, I don't think it's an all-out bottled water across the board. So I just wanted to point that out.
That's good.
That was going to be my question. What consumption level is considered healthy or safe? Like I said, ours is 4 parts per billion right at the last testing, and pretty low the last year. Is that safe for us to do? I do, when I make soups, I do the bottled water. When I boil pasta, I use my tap because, we only get so much water delivered as well. And that's my other question is, are we now just cut off from water delivery, or is that something someone, Kleinfelter, are still going to do, ExxonMobil doing? Because we still get the water every month and we do drink it all and make my ice cubes. But that's the question of, is that just going to be cut off, and when can we expect that, if that's the answer is yes? Anyone have that answer?
Go ahead, Jim.
That I believe that they cannot cut that off until the DEP gives them a release notification, and that won't happen right away. We're trying to hold that off. So certainly they can't just tell you after the meeting, when you go home tomorrow, don't expect a water delivery. The DEP would have to give official notification, and it'll probably be a 90-day period to give you a heads up, and that we're trying to delay. So that's not something that at this next meeting that they're just going to say, we're not going to give you water deliveries. Like Matt said, we worked with Dr. Mark Nascarella from the Mass Department of Epidemiology and Mass DPH, and he did do that study. So that's something we need to look into other ways that we can find to give a reasonable doubt to the DEP to continue to assure that they will allow them to still provide the water until we can, because if we say we're looking into a study, can you give us time? I think that they would do that. And that's the issue that I think the board needs to take into consideration.
Okay. Did that doctor at any time give a safe consumption level?
the Massachusetts drinking water standards, like Matt said, are like he
Or
said, 70 parts per billion. I think I said million. I misspoke earlier, but it is billion.
Per
I
billion,
think
yeah.
Vermont is 35, or New Hampshire, or one or the other. Where in Massachusetts, it's 70, which is considerably high, seeing that we do have two rest stops on the Mass Pike in Charlton that large consumptions of gasoline go through there. So a lot of trucks filling, a lot of things happening. So we do get incidents of reports of small spills, anything over 10 gallons all the time, and we get a couple a month. So, but
But they
certainly
don't have they don't have MTBE in that gas anymore though, right?
That's correct. Yep.
Okay. All right.
Judy Gilbert, did you
Thank-
see your hand still raised? If you want
Yes. Yes, thanks, John. Is this meeting been set? Do we have a date for this DEP, hullabaloo with Exxon and everybody?
to,
Do we have
I
a
don't
date?
believe the date has been released. I have so many emails, but I don't think I have the date for the public information meeting. I believe it's going to be soon, according to Mark Baldy, but I don't have the date yet. And that should be sent out to anyone that's on the list.
Jim, if I
Thank
could,
you.
I know at our September 28th meeting, Gary Magnuson stated that it was his belief or understanding that he expected the PIP meeting to be in early November. That was his estimate. It was not anything that was in writing, but that was his best estimate.
But we should expect
That's
to be
what I heard.
notified. We should expect to be notified by them.
That's correct. I don't know about all individuals, but Judy, now you're on mute. Judy, we're having a tough time hearing you. Judy, hold on a second. It's,
I think she can only see you, John.
okay. So Judy, we had a tough time hearing that. It's too muffled. Judy, we had a tough time hearing you. It's almost like you weren't fully muted, but it was, I couldn't really hear what you.
Powering on. Welcome to Alltech Lansing.
I'm not sure what that is all about either. All right. I'm down here listening in. No, she's on mute, and yeah, thanks, Pete. So Judy is still on, but muted, and her video is gone. So again, I think I brought this up the last meeting or two, Jim. When we do have a PIP meeting scheduled with DEP, they would have to give us notification of, I think, 2 weeks public notification prior to that meeting, and they would also be notifying the folks, representatives for Gould Cemetery Road, as well as, of course, the Board of Health, and this would have to go into newspapers and town hall, whatever. So not sure what's happened, but she can't hear us either. So all right. So let me just make sure there's nobody else. That's it. Kay Beck, do you have anything else you wanted to bring up?
I just wanted to thank you guys so much for doing everything that you've been doing this whole time and continuing to do by the sounds of things, and really pulling for us. just, we all appreciate it. We all talk outside of these meetings as well. So I just wanted to let you know that we all appreciate everything that you guys have done for our town all the time and just for our little section of it.
So,
So
and Brian will be notified, I'm sure. Is he the head spokesperson for the Gould Cemetery Road folks, or one of?
well, actually, Judy and myself, we are, Brian tends to get the email and then he forwards it, and then Judy and I kind of follow up on the rest of it. If
You do the
so,
link.
yeah. So Andrea, I think now is going to be sending it to Judy and to me. So
Well, we
should
look
be
forward,
good, but
and we obviously will have Gary Magnuson there, and he has come up with some questions, and you weren't part of the last meeting, but he spoke briefly about this. Just kind of what Jim had stated, that the DEP consultant agreed with that the contamination is not from 6 West. So,
which question of where it is from and what do we do next, I guess.
yeah, I know. So we're
So, but that's what you guys have been so on top of. So I really appreciate it.
all right. Anything else from Gould Cemetery Road residents?
Matt has something, Mr. Chairman. Matt.
Go ahead, Matt.
No, I didn't. I thought John asked me if I had anything, and I was saying no, that I was good.
I have just one further thing, Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Yes, ma'am.
I just failed to mention that it was Matt was chairman at the time, and we were both talking, and he was encouraging me to not make sure we didn't forget about Cemetery Road. So I failed to mention that Matt was all the driving force in the beginning. So I got to give credit to Matt, and he was cracking the whip. So
Yeah, Matt, you've been great too. Yeah, everybody's been great. Thank you so much.
Word since what, like 1922 or something?
Yeah. Kind of.
Kind of. All right. Cemetery Gould Road. Obviously, we'll be in touch with all of you, you folks, your representatives, and the other residents who are affected by this. So,
Okay. Thank you.
thank you.
you.
Have a good night. Say hi to Sarah.
If you want. All right. So we'll move on then to Flint Road and Old Town Road well contamination. Jim, I know we have seen some things from this. And before I let you speak, Jim, I just wanted to bring up what Gary had said last time. Flint Road, and I don't have the number on Flint Road, but 1,4-dioxane has been detected there since 2016. And Old Town Road, number 12 has detection that triggered 6 to 7 more wells being tested. Bottled water now provided for that resident on Old Town Road. It's not high enough for a POET system yet. And that's what my notes say. Jim, I'm sure you have something else, especially if you've spoken to Gary Magnuson. So take it away.
for you, Mr. Chairman, I did speak to the Gary and the homeowner of 12 Old Town Road. He thinks that he needs a filtration system, but it's not the answer because it's not MTBE that can be filtered. It's 1,4-dioxane. And as Matt will tell you, and as you know, John, that the filtration system is not the final answer. The only answer would be the bottled water. Depends on the level that's there also, because the filtration system, although they did work on Berry Corner Road, in that area, H-Foot Road, is not an effective mitigation of 1,4-dioxane. So to buy an expensive filtration system, it gives a false sense of security that it's properly filtering is something that Gary is going to discuss with the board when he finishes the round of all the testing. We have 12 Old Town Road on automatic delivery for water. He did run out. They had a shortage on water and just didn't deliver it, so we gave him the water in our office. He's a very nice gentleman, very understanding, but we need to look at this further and wait for the testing of the other homes that Gary has not gotten back to us yet with the test.
Okay, and that was 6 or 7 houses, I think, that Gary mentioned.
Yeah, he had trouble getting into 2, I think, still, but he's still working on it.
Okay.
But certainly that person is getting automatic delivery from the town of Charlton for the water.
All right. And Flint Road, nothing on that specifically.
What was on Flint Road? What are we discussing?
I think just just that Gary brought this up. It wasn't on the last agenda 2 weeks ago. I just have down here Flint Road 1,4-dioxane since 2016.
Oh, the Flint Road would be with a, you know,
Oh,
one of the wells. One of the wells had the hit, which indicated that we need to do the testing, anything within 500 feet. So that's,
so that's our monitoring well.
yes. And that home built on Old Town Road is very new.
Okay. Right. See what happens when you go a couple of weeks between meetings? Not that that's a bad thing. All right, so 1-4. Okay. So we'll wait. I guess we'll have Gary at an upcoming meeting, and I think we'll probably have to have a meeting before this next PIP meeting with DEP, probably, just in case we've got something else to discuss with him. All right. We're kind of in a holding pattern then until we hear back from CMG on the Old Town Road wells. Moving on, unless somebody has something, 54 Flint Road landfill closure. This is kind of, I think I'd want to leave this on here under old business just in case there's anything new. I suspect there's nothing, but Jim, do you have anything on that?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I did meet with the finance director and Andrew Goles, and he was putting on for town meeting possibly funding or borrowing for the landfill closure rather than waiting till they get a demand letter and we passed town meeting. So I believe he's working, doing his due diligence on assuring that the town of Charlton, when we get the letter that we have to close 54 as mandated by DEP, that we have proper funding available.
Okay. And that would be at an upcoming town meeting. All right.
Yeah, that's correct. I think he has that on for a vote to go before FinCom and before the residents.
All right. Any discussion from other members on that? No.
I'm good.
Okay. Moving on then, COVID vaccine updates, Jim.
So you, Mr. Chairman, we have had an update today from our contract tracing public health nurse. It's down to 8 cases now, which is very good from 50 something just a couple weeks ago. You know, no number is a good number, but it is 8, right? It's a lot better than seeing 50 something. That's the update. Our contract tracing nurse is doing a very good job, you know, contacting everyone and working to assure the residents that we're there for them. And that's through that state grant, but she is doing a very good job. But she updated me this morning, we spoke, and we're down to 8 active cases.
Well, that's great news. And of course, I'm seeing on the news that cases in general nationwide are also coming down. And I'm hoping that's because of folks getting vaccinated or being a little bit more cautious. I would have thought that it would have stayed at the current rate or elevated with everybody going back to school. And as the weather gets colder, more people inside, just like the flu season, you tend to see more cases as people are gathered close together indoors. So that's good news. Hopefully that'll continue. Any discussion from board members on that? No. All right. New business, LNG siting board update from their October 6th Zoom meeting. This was midday. I was not able to get on this. Jim, were you able to?
I didn't get on. I was on vacation in Maine for my wedding anniversary, so I was out.
This is that. I'm just kidding. I hope you had a good time while you were there and you weren't pestered too much and you had your phone up. I did not hear anything specific out of this. Thought I saw something, but yeah, I'm gonna wait till I see something more official. I will, on a personal note though, you know, I sat on the LNG committee as part of the representatives from the town of Charlton. The distinct impression that I got, and probably some other members, was that this was going to be an uphill battle to try to fight this from being cited in the town of Charlton, just because of the nature of it. You know, the state mandates you got to, and the state tells the siting board, hey, you've got to go on out and find a location for this. And of course, all they have to do is pull out the map that shows all the gas pipelines. And bingo, guess what? You know, what do we have? 18-inch pipeline coming through right there off 169 in Carpenter Hill. So, excuse me. So it seemed like a logical place. Unfortunately, I personally, again, I don't think it's a good fit down there. It's so close to other businesses and residences, but we're going to have to wait and see what the final determination is. I'm pretty sure I know what it is, but I'm going to hold off until we get something a little more official. But we'll talk about that next time, or when the final determination is coming through. Any other issues, other new business before we turn it over to Jim for department head report? All right, go ahead, Jim.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, just to let everyone know, tomorrow from 10 to 12, we will have a flu vaccination clinic at our senior center downstairs at the town hall. We'll have our staff downstairs. We have had very few registrations compared to last year, but certainly we didn't want to not have the vaccination for flu. We can't forget about it. There's still a susceptible population for flu. So we are having tomorrow, our public health nurses will be there. Myself, Kim Andrews on vacation. Our town planner, Jamie Terry, will be there. And we'll have our annual flu clinic downstairs in the senior center tomorrow from 10 to 12.
And
So,
this is for anybody in the public,
anybody.
Yeah, even non-residents of Charlton, if somebody's visiting from Florida or something, you don't care?
We wouldn't turn anyone away. No.
Okay. Excellent. I already got my flu shot. I walked into Walgreens in Sturbridge with my wife, and what was that, about a week ago or so, and then had about a 2-minute wait while they pulled everything together. We filled out our paperwork, and glad that's done. So I'm covered.
So that's an update there. Certainly, I did have my annual FEP Region 2 Steering Committee meeting. We had a special invitation to guest from Encompass Health. I think Pete knows a little bit about that. And they were very nice to attend. We're trying to work hand in hand with medical facilities to get a better understanding how public health works with the medical community and hospitals, especially during the pandemic. The hospitals stepped up big time. So Encompass Health sent 2 representatives, and we had our meeting at the Apple Barn out in Phillipston, and we had it outside. So it was pretty nice, and we had a good day. So thank you, Pete, to your couple staff members that were there to attend the meeting, which I chaired, and we had a good turnout and a good day. So it's just a collaboration of making sure that everyone's trailers, because everyone knows that Charlton has a trailer with all our PPE and our gear and stuff, and we're ready to we have our vaccination tables, our sites, and we're fully stocked, and still lead all the towns as far as making sure that trailer is represented the area and fully in working condition. So we will offer another flu clinic probably for the students, and we'll do it in cooperation with the town of Dudley at Shepherd Hill. It'll be a drive-through, but that's something we're working on right now. And Dudley has a new new health director. They tied in with Webster. So, but that's certainly something we're working on. We can't forget that that is certainly an issue. We want to make sure that anyone who wants a flu vaccine will have it. So tomorrow from 10 to 12 in the town hall at the senior center, we'll be doing that. But that's all I have right now, Mr. Chairman.
Good, thank you, Jim. Good. Glad we're doing a flu vaccine clinic. That's going to be important, I think, this year. It is every year. I never miss getting my shot. So that's it for department head reports. I brought it up before, but any other business at all from other board members?
I got nothing.
All right. We have somebody joining us, Susan Smolsky. Sorry if I'm butchering your name, Susan, if you want to speak. Now's the time. We're getting close to the end of our meeting. No, okay. All right, so now we need to determine our next meeting. And I am pretty much wide open, whether it's 2 weeks, 3 weeks. I think a lot of this is going to depend on the potential for the public meeting, DEP, with the PIP meeting, if you will, for Gould Cemetery Road. We probably want to discuss that with Gary, maybe, and final questions and concerns that we would have. So if we did that, let's see. So that would be the first couple of days of November if we did it 3 weeks from now. I'm fine with 3 weeks, but if somebody wants to suggest 2 weeks instead, we can do that, whether it's Jim or other board members. I'm up for anything.
3 sounds good.
Okay, Matt, you're going to be in the
Agreed.
I don't know.
You don't know. It's all right, as long as you got a phone that works. You can call it just like you're in the next room, so that's good. All right, so why don't we set it up now for, it's got to be like, what, November 2nd? I don't have a calendar here in front of me.
Yes, November 2nd.
November 2nd, 6 p.m. Zoom meeting. How's that?
That's good.
And Jim, if we do get something from DEP, or if Gary comes up with a concern, he wants to speak with the board, we can add him to the agenda. And I'm going to write this down here.
Okay.
John, while you're doing that, did we accept prior minutes?
We did, yes.
They did, Matt. Yes.
We did without you. We weren't sure if you were going to be able to log in from outer space.
Yep, no problem.
Okay. All right. I think that's it. I'll take a motion to adjourn if we're ready.
I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, everyone. We'll call this ended at 6:45 p.m. and we'll see you in 3 weeks or sooner. Jim, I'll stop by and sign paperwork soon.
Very good.
All right. Thanks.
Thanks again, Jim.
You all
Thanks,
set?
guys.
Be safe out there,
All right.
Matt.
Bye.
See you.
I know.
Thank you.